If you're a man who's been silently wondering, is daily masturbation harming my prostate? This video might shake you. Because the truth is, what feels like a private habit could silently be influencing one of the most vital glands in your body, your prostate. We're not here to shame or scare you. We're here to explain what every man needs to know. Your prostate isn't just a forgotten organ. It's central to your sexual wellness, fertility, testosterone regulation, and long-term urinary health. But when daily stimulation becomes a routine, especially in isolation from real intimacy, there are subtle yet powerful shifts happening in your hormones, your nervous system, and even your performance in bed. Ever notice fatigue after release? Difficulty holding an erection like you used to? A weaker orgasm than before? It's not just age. It might be your habits. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on what happens to your prostate when masturbation becomes a daily ritual. You'll learn what's healthy, what's harmful, and how to protect your prostate for the long haul, naturally. Because your manhood, your confidence, and your health deserve the truth. And here's where that truth begins, straight from medical science, clinical studies, and years of real-world urological experience. When we talk about the act of daily masturbation and its effects on the prostate, the first thing to clear up is this: daily masturbation does not directly cause prostate cancer. That's a myth, one that's been recycled through late-night forums, half-baked blogs, and locker room whispers. But while it doesn't directly spark cancerous growth, there's a more subtle, more complex layer of truth that most men never hear about. Your prostate is a walnut-sized gland located just below the bladder. It produces seminal fluid, the essential liquid that mixes with sperm to create semen. Every time you ejaculate, your prostate contracts, releasing that fluid through the urethra. This means that with every climax, your prostate gets a little workout. On the surface, that might sound like a good thing, like going to the gym for your glands. And to a degree, it is. Occasional ejaculation helps prevent stagnation of prostatic fluid, which in some studies has been associated with inflammation or even a mildly increased risk of developing issues like prostatitis. But when ejaculation becomes a daily, compulsive behavior, especially when it's not paired with overall sexual health or balanced lifestyle habits, a new pattern begins to form, one that can quietly wear down the gland over time. The prostate, while resilient, isn't designed for constant overuse. Think of it like a car engine. You can rev it, you can run it hard. But if you never stop pushing it, without proper rest or attention to the rest of the system, you'll eventually face wear and tear. Daily ejaculation forces the gland to contract and release fluid far more often than is necessary for health. Over time, this can cause low-grade pelvic inflammation, reduced prostate fluid quality, and even lead to what's called pelvic floor dysfunction, a condition that can affect urination, erection strength, and your sense of control during climax. And that's not the only risk. There's a hormonal side to all of this that often goes unnoticed. Masturbation triggers a cascade of neurotransmitters: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and prolactin. Dopamine gives you that hit of pleasure. Oxytocin and serotonin offer a brief window of satisfaction and calm. But prolactin, that one's a little different. Prolactin is the hormone released after ejaculation that makes you feel relaxed and even sleepy. However, elevated levels of prolactin, especially when constantly spiked by daily ejaculation, have been shown to suppress testosterone production. That means if you're finishing every single day with a climax, you may be consistently putting your testosterone levels on a roller coaster, spiking desire and then dropping it again and again. Testosterone is your key male hormone. It influences not just libido but energy, muscle retention, motivation, mental clarity, and mood. When your brain registers frequent surges in prolactin, it can start dialing down the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, a mouthful of a term that essentially means the system responsible for telling your body to produce testosterone. The more you interrupt it, the more sluggish it can become. And while daily ejaculation alone may not crash your testosterone overnight, when combined with poor sleep, low movement, or stress, it becomes another weight pulling you down. Now let's come back to the prostate. Studies done over long periods have explored the relationship between ejaculation frequency and prostate cancer risk. Interestingly, some findings suggest that moderate ejaculation, around 2-4 times per week, may have a protective effect, possibly due to regular clearing of old fluids and toxins. But none of those studies celebrate daily, compulsive habits. Why? Because context matters. Was the ejaculation part of a healthy relationship? Was it coupled with overall sexual wellness, intimacy, and connection? Or was it performed in isolation with stress, shame, and fatigue? Masturbation driven by anxiety or compulsion changes the chemical fingerprint in the brain and body. Over time, it can lead to something called desensitization. That means the more you do it, the less you feel it. And the less you feel, the more you seek intense stimulation just to get the same effect. That's not sexual wellness. That's a biological feedback loop. And your prostate is caught right in the middle of it. Many men begin to notice they feel different after a while. The ejaculation feels weaker, the sensation duller, the volume of semen reduces. Sometimes, urination feels different, like the stream is weaker or the pressure is inconsistent. That's not always a sign of disease, but it can be a sign of an overworked, under-supported prostate. And here's the deeper layer that no one talks about. Your prostate isn't just a mechanical gland. It's also linked to your nervous system. The pelvic nerves that serve the prostate are part of a delicate, responsive system that interacts with your spine, your brain, your gut, and your hormonal centers. When you're overusing this system, especially without giving your body the nutrients, rest, and physical movement it needs, you're essentially fraying the wires slowly. The result: lower sensitivity, delayed response, and difficulty achieving satisfaction. And there's another consequence, especially for men who start this pattern young. If daily masturbation begins in adolescence or early adulthood and carries on into the 30s and 40s without change, the brain's reward system adapts. It becomes conditioned to prefer artificial stimulation over real intimacy. That's when relationship problems start to creep in. It's not just about the prostate anymore. It's about intimacy disconnect, low libido with a partner, and performance anxiety in bed. Your partner might sense it, even if they can't explain it. And internally, so do you. You feel it in the hesitation, the drop in confidence, the loss of passion, and often in the confusion about why your body isn't responding like it used to. But again, this doesn't happen to every man. The problem is that too many men never realize it's happening until it's already affected them. Because the decline isn't loud. It's quiet. It's subtle. It's missing morning erections. It's taking longer to reach climax. It's reduced force in ejaculation. It's feeling disconnected from pleasure. And these changes can take years to reverse if you don't recognize them early. That's why understanding what's truly happening to your prostate during a daily masturbation routine matters. Not because we're here to judge, but because we want you to reclaim control. To recognize that health isn't just about doing something that feels good in the moment. It's about what sustains you for years to come. Your prostate is a part of that story. And like any vital organ, it needs care, awareness, and balance. Not overuse, not shame, just truth. And now that you've heard the truth about what daily ejaculation does to your prostate, it's time to look deeper into how this habit might also be affecting your testosterone, your energy, and your ability to fully connect with your own desire. Because when we start exploring what daily ejaculation, especially through masturbation, does beyond the prostate, we land right in the territory of hormones. Specifically, the one that defines so much of a man's energy, drive, mood, and sexual power, testosterone. And while ejaculation alone doesn't kill testosterone instantly, the way your body responds to constant stimulation is more complex than most people understand. That's where the second layer of this truth comes in. Overstimulation can lead to lower testosterone levels temporarily, and in repeated cycles, it can impact libido, energy, and sexual performance over time. Let's break that down through a biological lens. Each time you masturbate, your brain experiences a spike in dopamine, your primary motivation and pleasure hormone. You feel excited, charged, focused for a moment. That surge is followed by a sharp increase in prolactin, which brings a sense of satisfaction and relaxation. But here's what's critical. Prolactin and testosterone operate in opposite directions. When prolactin levels stay elevated, especially through daily stimulation, they send a signal to your hypothalamus that you're satiated. This suppresses the brain's signal to your pituitary gland to produce luteinizing hormone, an essential hormone that triggers testosterone production in the testes. The result, your body slowly learns to reduce its testosterone output. This hormonal dance might not be noticeable immediately. You might still feel energized after a few days, even a few weeks. But with time, especially if your daily masturbation becomes emotionally compulsive, something you do when you're stressed, bored, anxious, or avoiding intimacy, your hormone profile begins to shift. And one day you realize you're not waking up with the same drive. You're not motivated to work out. You don't feel the same confidence. Your mind feels foggy. These are all early signs of low testosterone, and they're more common in men under 40 than ever before. Not because of genetics or bad luck, but because of habits, overstimulation, and a digital environment that floods us with artificial triggers. And here's the twist that most men never expect. The very habit they're using to feel better, masturbating daily for relief or release, is one of the reasons they feel so flat and depleted. It becomes a cycle, a temporary spike, followed by a crash. That crash gets deeper with time, and your body's ability to bounce back gets weaker. Eventually, your desire doesn't disappear, but it becomes numbed. You want intimacy, but it feels dull. You want energy, but it fades. You want performance, but your body doesn't respond the same way. And if you're also dealing with poor sleep, lack of strength training, or stress from work or relationships, the impact compounds. What's worse is that most men don't connect the dots. They think they're tired because of work. They think their libido is dropping because they're aging. But age isn't always the villain, it's often imbalance. And when testosterone starts to dip, everything suffers. Muscle mass declines, fat begins to accumulate, especially around the waist. Your mood gets unpredictable. Some men even begin to experience mild erectile dysfunction, not because their vascular system is damaged, but because their hormonal system is under constant pressure. Daily ejaculation through masturbation, especially without replenishing sleep, proper nutrition, and physical discipline, acts like a quiet thief. It doesn't crash your testosterone in one blow. It chips away at it, little by little, until you start wondering when you stopped feeling like yourself. The reason this connection matters so much is because testosterone isn't just about sex. It's about how you show up in the world, your posture, your voice, your focus, your discipline. It defines your edge. And while masturbation is a natural and even healthy part of life when done in moderation, daily routines that stem from habit rather than true desire are different. They drain you. They dull your edge. They rob you of the challenge and reward cycle that your endocrine system thrives on. There's also something powerful to be said about retention. Not permanent celibacy, not denial of your biology, but the discipline to hold back sometimes, to not give in to every impulse, to train your body that pleasure is earned, not demanded. That kind of internal mastery doesn't just help your testosterone, it reconditions your entire nervous system. Your dopamine sensitivity sharpens, your focus deepens, your self-control expands, and yes, your testosterone levels begin to stabilize because you're no longer overloading your system with constant peaks and valleys. And here's the truth most men feel deep inside but rarely voice: when your testosterone is low, you don't feel like a man should feel. You feel off, uncertain, drained, and sometimes even ashamed. That's why restoring hormonal balance isn't just a health decision. It's a personal revolution. And it begins not with supplements or surgery, but with honesty. Honesty about your habits, your emotional triggers, and what you're doing to your own system every time you pick short-term pleasure over long-term power. Because once you understand that, you can begin to reclaim the energy, confidence, and sexual strength that's already inside you, waiting to be unlocked. And unlocking that strength starts with balance. That's where the third truth about daily masturbation really hits home. While healthy ejaculation can support prostate fluid clearance and reduce inflammation, daily compulsion can lead to hormonal imbalance, pelvic tension, and deeper intimacy issues that most men don't even realize are connected to the habit. This is where the conversation gets personal, not clinical, because this isn't just about glands and hormones anymore. This is about your quality of life, your relationships, your connection with yourself and with others. The human body was never designed for constant stimulation. Your sexual energy isn't just for release, it's for connection, for creativity, for vitality. And when masturbation becomes a daily routine, driven not by desire, but by habit or escape, it begins to hijack the very systems meant to empower you. It becomes something you do without thinking, without feeling. And over time, that lack of presence shows up in other areas of life. You stop feeling deeply. You stop connecting. You start living in loops. Dopamine loops that keep you chasing a few seconds of release instead of building a life that's rich with real satisfaction. Yes, ejaculation has benefits. Seminal fluid needs to be released. The prostate needs to be emptied at times to avoid fluid buildup. And moderate, healthy sexual expression can reduce stress, improve sleep, and even support immune health. But those benefits come from a balanced rhythm, not compulsive repetition. When you push that system every day, especially alone, without emotional intimacy or real physical connection, the body starts to respond with tension. not just in the mind, but in the pelvic floor muscles, those deep internal muscles that control urination, erection, ejaculation, and core stability. Daily ejaculation through masturbation can cause chronic engagement of those muscles, especially if the act is rushed or performed in awkward positions. Over time, the muscles stop relaxing properly. That tension builds and can lead to pelvic floor dysfunction. You start to feel a pressure or ache around your perineum. Your urine stream may feel weaker or interrupted. You might experience sudden, sharp stings or dull aches in the groin after climax. These symptoms are often misdiagnosed as prostatitis or dismissed as nothing serious, but they're real signals that your body is overloaded and calling for change. And beyond the physical, there's the emotional layer, possibly the most important one of all. Daily masturbation often detaches a man from the emotional energy behind sexuality. When pleasure is reduced to a mechanical act, one that happens alone, in silence, with a screen or imagination replacing human touch, it rewires the brain to seek arousal without emotional connection. The longer that pattern continues, the harder it becomes to shift. You might begin to struggle with arousal during real intimacy. You might not feel as excited with your partner. Or you might experience performance anxiety, worrying about staying hard, lasting long, or feeling connected. Because your nervous system, trained by repetition, now expects a private, pressure-free environment to feel desire. It's not that you've broken something, it's that you've trained your body and brain into a narrow comfort zone, and to reverse that, you need more than willpower. You need awareness. You need to slow down, step back, and reassess your relationship with pleasure. You need to rebuild sensitivity, rebuild connection, and allow your body to regain its natural rhythms. That means rest. That means movement. That means connecting with your partner in ways that don't always lead to climax, but build trust, affection, and anticipation. And perhaps most importantly, it means letting go of shame. So many men carry silent guilt about their habits. They know something feels off, but they're afraid to talk about it, so they stay quiet. And in that silence, the problem grows. But here's the truth: this isn't about being bad or broken. It's about understanding your biology. It's about learning to master your impulses rather than be ruled by them. Because when you do, everything shifts. You stand taller. You feel clearer. You approach intimacy with presence instead of pressure. You stop chasing highs and start cultivating real connection. With yourself and with the people you care about. Your sexual energy is one of the most powerful forces you have, not just for pleasure, but for creation, for vitality, for living fully. But like all powerful forces, it must be respected, not abused. Daily masturbation, when done unconsciously, robs you of that power little by little. But the moment you become aware, the moment you begin to take back control, that's the moment your real strength begins to rise again. And from that strength, everything else in your life begins to change. The truth is simple: your body isn't designed for constant stimulation without balance. Daily masturbation may feel harmless, even normal, but over time it can drain your testosterone, strain your prostate, dull your performance, and disconnect you from true intimacy. This isn't about shame. It's about awareness. When you reclaim control over your habits, your hormones stabilize, your confidence rises, and your relationships deepen. You were never meant to survive on artificial pleasure. You were meant to thrive with real power, presence, and purpose. Your health, your manhood, and your future all begin with the choices you make. Starting now.